Thomas was taking Annie and Clarabel back to the yards. A new engine, shiny paintwork and a gleaming brass dome. "Yes, sir," she answered. Later, the only coaches Emily's driver could find were Annie and Clarabel. "How dare he say we'll do? How dare he?" Thomas saw Emily coming down. "Hello, Thomas," Emily called. But Thomas was cross. "Those are my coaches," he muttered. "Give them back." Emily didn't hear Thomas and she went on her way. Then Edward passed. And Percy. When Emily whistled hello, the engines didn't whistle back. Emily couldn't understand why they were so unfriendly. She was upset. Thomas didn't want new coaches. He wanted Annie and Clarabel back. "I'll go and apologise." "Don't want new coaches, don't want new coaches," chuffed Thomas. Later, Emily was still looking for Thomas when a signalman flagged, "Please go and see what's wrong." Emily charged towards Oliver, and with a huge effort, just in time. Later, the fact Percy was delivering a load of fresh tomatoes. A big bump. Percy puffed back as fast as he could. "I've got him, silly chatter." "Bye, Percy." Thomas was carefully chuffing through the ever. But it was too late. The tracks creaked and Fergus, a small railway traction engine. "Hello," whistled Thomas. "You don't know the twins like I do." Fergus arrived at the Bill and Ben were delighted. Mavis, but he didn't like the way the twins were behaving one bit. Bill banged his. Then Ben pushed his truck in. The quarry master sent Bill and Ben. Fergus was left in peace with Mavis. The twins were still thinking about Fergus. The rock crusher was heavy, shaking the rails as they went. As roughly as they could, they... "Look out!" cried Fergus, and he rushed. And no one worked harder to help than Bill and Ben. At last, Fergus was free. Want to go on the bridge again. And he and his driver went home. The yard manager set off immediately. He chuffed slowly onto the bridge. The bridge groaned as he rolled forward, but Skarloey puffed on. Finally, "Don't crack your smoke box," teased Thomas. Edward couldn't wait to hear the brass band play their wonderful music. He was so excited about meeting the brass band that he did. The crane swung right off the track. Bertie's driver shortcut, but it was very... Percy's wheels did not like the mud. To the rescue. They were pleased and proud. Except Henry. He was feeling ill. What's the matter with... hissed Henry. You just don't care. Thomas and Percy. He didn't feel well. Useful engines don't complain. He was leaving water everywhere as he chuffed to... Then Thomas and Percy overtook Henry. Hurry up, Henry! Percy tooted. I can't go any faster, Henry chuffed miserably. You're just being lazy, teased Thomas. By the time Percy had already left. Why did Thomas and Percy... Henry ground to a halt. Just then tracks and then hooked up to Thomas. His work is very important indeed. James just laughed. Just look at me, Gordon. Gordon like me never gets dirty. It was a long journey to the workshops. Poured down. All the engines were talking excitedly about the storm, except Peter Sam. He was thinking about the refreshment ladies. Peter Sam is a happy engine. The three engines were soon at work. They knew this was naughty, but this gave Thomas a naughty idea. Arthur was glad he could keep the trucks in order. Stop the trucks from singing the countryside. Soon, the truck... Chug, chug, chuff, you tug and huff, but you're so rusty you can't even puff. Stop singing, huffed Arthur. Trucks should do as they're told. But if they couldn't... You can't catch us, laughed the trucks all ahead. Duck had stopped at the crossing at the brakes, but it was too deep. What a mess, puffed Thomas. The fat controller was... Harvey arrived with the breakdown crane. He could see there was a lot, and Thomas took the loaded trucks away. The windmill is warm. I got to look where he was going. Harvey arrived to put the trucks. Toby was sad. The next morning, Toby chuffed carefully along his branch line. The torn trees from the ground had been damaged. Then Toby saw the most shocking sight of all. The windmill is broken. To help. There must be a way. Suddenly, a tree ahead. Harvey and Terence were clearing the track. It took a long time, but at last the new Toby's windmill. Chuffed Harvey. The twins were excited. Going to Lord Callan's castle would be like going home again. They puffed proudly around the loch toward their destination. There it is, cried Donald. We're almost there, shouted Douglas. Trees had fallen across the line. Donald and Douglas stopped just in... It's not. It's us. Callan's workers were waiting to unload the trucks. Sodor. Felt like a very little engine indeed. More important, I must think of something exciting to children's trip special. He didn't know that the linesman... Be careful! Children cheered. Long behind. Children oohed and ah. Children laughed happily. And You really are a very useful engine. Oh, Oh, thank you, sir, puffed Rheneas proud. Later the Fergus was waiting for Salty when he arrived at the smelters. Soon they were hooked up and on their way home. Then Salty saw. They were surprised to see a crowd waiting. The man grew bigger. Bigger. Oliver, snow is magical. Pah! To his warm, cosy shed. The Fat Controller was waiting for him. Soon, Oliver was littered Oliver into the station sidings. Oh, shiver my boiler. Is there a problem, Mr. Oliver? When Duck arrived with the breakdown crane, Oliver. That evening, the Fat Controller came. Some faulty points sent his trucks one way, and Thomas onto the old pier. Arthur knew he had to hurry. Later, Arthur at his yard, feeling impatient. Get a move on, slow coach, he puffed crossly to Rusty, but without the brake van. We'll show them how fast I am, Duncan whistled. We'll deliver this statue and I'll still finish first. So he tried to brake, but Duncan was out of control. He was scared as Duncan sped by. Look at his driver. Slow down, whistled Rusty. Elephant Park loomed ahead. Duncan's driver applied the brake, but it was too late. The statue flew through the air. Sometimes Henry and the other engine ache. The Fat Controller brought in a new engine to help with the heavy workload. He was long and had 10 drive wheels. He looked very strong, Murdoch said quietly. But Salty and Harvey were... The next morning, Murdoch collected... Thomas and Fergus are friends. Fergus is the... Fergus was missing. That's not like Fergus. There must be something wrong. I will send cement works of the cement works. Engines are happy to show holidaymakers the wonderful sights to be seen. There was a problem. House anyway. The next day, Bulgy was refitted inside. It was driving so smoothly that the hens didn't wake up. He overtook Trevor. Bulgy swerved, woke up. The passengers panicked and the hens were frightened. They flapped, they squawked. Stop! Cried Bulgy's passengers. We racing along road. But I'm on patrol! He was looking for engine fuel when he saw Pegasus, a cart horse that felt very clever. Just then, Skarloey chugged in. Yawn was floating peacefully through the sky. Lady Hat was enjoying herself. Down the track, the workman was still loading. Be late again. Skarloey was on his way. The balloon's going to land in the tree, cried Skarloey. And it came down right in front of and set off at once. Everyone was waiting as Skarloey brought his important passengers to the grand opening. They knew there'd been children waved. Decorations aren't dignified. And loose and wrapped around his firebox. He couldn't budge. I can't see, he whistled loudly to his driver. Stop. You can't stop, Gordon, his driver called back. You're the cried the passengers. Rocketed by. Gordon soon found out. When he arrived at the shed, the huge engine was humming quietly. The world! When Gordon arrived, the station... Everyone is waiting. Elizabeth is rude, Thomas chuffed, and this snowplow makes my buffers ache. On the road, her wheels did not like the slippery ice at all. She chuffed onto the icy road. Elizabeth through the mountains on the island of Sodor, and they hurried off to warn the other engines. He didn't even wait for his coal. Rusty! But Rusty was on the... Chuffed Thomas. After all, I'm engine number 1. Thinking about medals, he imagined himself wearing a... How smart he would look. Then Thomas had to stop to pick up some passengers. Thomas was nearly at the station. As he drew about the children, I can't let them down, I can't let them down.